Welcome to What the Flick, Game of Thrones. The whole panel here. It's good stuff. Episode 3 of season 6, Oathbreaker.
Yeah.
I'm a little who broke the oath?
A
lot of people.
Smalljon Umber. I did research for this one. Okay, so
and then somebody maybe at the end, right? Maybe broke his oath.
And one or two others.
And maybe and maybe Sean Bean. You know, maybe because
right.
Yeah, but I mean, he made a. You know, it's a story that got broken. It's a legend. You know,
you have an oath when you tell a tale.
Yeah, I mean,
not
but it was part of how he's measured, and I think people make too big a deal out of it. Like, you know, whatever. He's just talking to his kids, and he didn't really do anything wrong.
He took the liberty of bullshitting him.
Also, you could stab somebody in the back if they're in the middle of a fight where
They
they're
need to
trying
relax.
to kill.
That guy just killed like 5 people.
That's right.
Stab him in the back if you get a chance.
Right.
And
How
it was the
else
back
are
of
you
the
going to
neck.
kill that guy? Like,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, we're
relax with the night stuff.
We're obviously talking about the Sword of the Morning, which is only one of the best names ever.
He wields the sword Dawn.
Okay, that guy is
That's
so
so
good.
cool.
There's
Made
no
from the
reason
core
why
of a meteor.
There's no reason why the name Sword of the Morning should be badass, except for the fact that it is monumentally badass.
Yeah.
Okay,
2 swords.
and he's like Washington, right? And so in the middle of a fight,
Real quick, are we still trying to work on a morning show for the Turks?
we are Sword of the Morning. Okay, Arthur Dayne, who's
That's a
much better than
family-friendly
Ron
title.
Dayne. Yeah, that's a family friendly. So. Yeah, that dude is not only trying to kill you, but is seconds away from killing you. I would stab him anywhere I could. That's right. Like, oh, I'm sorry, am I being unethical? Since I had 3 seconds left to live, I'm going to give it a shot.
Right.
I'm going to go unethical here.
Also, we stabbed you in the back. You have 2 swords. That's not fair.
That's right. It's 2 swords. That's right.
And you know, by the
down a
way,
sword.
And you're ambidextrous.
yeah, wasn't it unethical fighting them 5 against 2 or 7 against 2, whatever they were
I kind
doing?
of lost track in that scene too because Howland Reed ends up getting slashed first, and I wasn't really focused on which one was Howland Reed.
Neither was
and so
I. I didn't care.
Right,
It
and so
looks
Ned's
like
the
Ned-
last one standing, and you're like,
Who was the last one standing?
well,
Ned.
Ned at the moment, like Ned is the
Right.
last guy standing, and you're like, oh shit, where the hell
But
is Howland
it also
Reed?
looks
So Howland
like
Reed
Ned
was
is
the guy
fighting.
who wasn't dead.
Right.
He just got slashed.
Right.
The way that they cut it, it looked like Ned was fighting Arthur Dayne in the beginning, and then he kills him, and then all of a sudden there's still Arthur Dayne. It was cut and shot a little bit weird.
Okay, I was waiting for this review to ask you guys who Howland Reed is.
So Howland Reed is the father of Mira and Jojen, who are the 2 that accompanied Bran up to the north.
Right.
He's like one of, I
Mira's
guess,
still
the
alive,
leaders of.
Jojen dead.
Yeah, there's the area that connects the north and the rest of the country is this swampy area with just one path through it. They live there in that swamp.
So that family,
basically.
so the Reeds the Reeds' mission in life is to protect the Starks.
Well,
Basically,
and one of the things that happens with Howland Reed is that he's, you know, that group, the Crannog men, are kind of looked down on by everybody else in the north. And there's moments in the book at various banquets where Reed will get invited to different events. Howland Reed will, and Ned's always like, "Yeah, Howland Reed, he's my guy," and the rest of the lords kind of grumble about it.
Right, like
but Ned is fanatically loyal to Howland because there's always like, "Oh yeah, something went down," and Ned's really loyal to him, and so
Well, I guess this
now we
is
see
what
why.
this is what went
right
down.
because he stabbed the guy in the back of the neck.
Right, and to save Ned's life.
Yeah.
Okay, and so by the way, it should be noted that I'm back. So let me just do this for a second.
Wait, you have to wait a long time to do that and make it think like you're not coming back.
That's right. It should also be noted that I have gained the weight that Matt has lost. Okay. There's some sort of Game of Thrones analogy in there somewhere.
Right. Well, it's more lost. Like it had to go somewhere.
Right. I appreciate you
Energy
taking
is
that burden
never
on.
created
I
in
appreciate
That's
it.
right.
So, and I took notes. I mean, I'm taking this seriously. You see these notes?
Wow.
And if you're on Facebook, by the way, Matt and I both did separate reviews of it last night. So right afterwards, while it's still fresh, so that you facebook.com/whattheflick. Okay, that's where you can see Matt.
Maybe since we live so close together, if we're home on Sunday nights, because I don't like doing the things alone. Maybe we can.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, and I have to keep switching the phone from hand to hand, and so
Right.
it's awkward. Maybe we'll have somebody hold the phone. Anyway, okay, let's go forward.
But let's finish that thought, because then, of course, Ned runs up to the screaming in the castle.
Right, the Tower of Joy.
The Tower of
Joy, that's what it's called?
Joy. This track is it's unbelievable. And how you do it normally and you do it like a dork is also totally worth mentioning.
There's a version in the very first book. There's a small version of the beginning of this scene.
Is that right?
Yeah, in the very first book. You don't see all that we saw in that scene, but you see some of it.
So do we presume that that is the sister giving birth to Jon Snow? Probably.
That's
we
what we
presume
believe.
that. We presume that.
Oh, I thought that was the sister being killed, and he was
I
going to
thought that
find the
first.
baby. I thought he was
I thought
going to
that
find
first.
Jon Snow.
Could be. But,
Could be.
Yeah.
But probably in some capacity, Jon Snow
Probably.
is up there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Almost unquestionably at this point.
So let's go-
Before that was a wild theory of mine. Now it's the most non-wild theory of all time.
So I have a good role here because these two guys in the middle are experts, and you're quite strong.
He's getting a lot stronger,
yeah,
actually.
and
He's talking about umbers and stuff.
And I'm super into it, and I think I catch other things because I'm not so stuck in the milieu. But I think I speak for many people who can't keep track of stuff and don't watch with a. There's got to be people who don't watch with a chart, right?
Yeah.
And
Lineages.
so let's go over just quickly the Targaryens because we've never seen them, right?
We've seen a few.
We haven't seen the generation that
Right.
we didn't
Right.
see the Mad King and Rhaegar is his son, not brother. Okay.
Right.
and
Right. Rhaegar was the crown
heir.
prince. He was the in line for the throne. Should something happen to the old king.
And Daenerys and the guy who got molded
Those are
were
his sons.
Yeah,
his
are
kids.
Mad King's sons and daughter as
I thought
well,
they were
right?
Rhaegar's kids.
Aren't they?
No,
they're
they're-
brother and sister of
Yes.
Rhaegar,
Right.
right?
Brother and
Right.
sister of Rhaegar.
Brother and
Oh, so
sister.
they're
So
al- so they're
Viserys was
also-
the younger brother
So
of
Daenerys
Rhaegar.
is Jon Snow's aunt, if we are correct about that thing.
Right, because John. Okay, so Daenerys. I thought
Yes.
she was Rhaegar's. Those were Rhaegar's kids. So why didn't Rhaegar take the throne?
Rhaegar died in the climactic battle on the Trident. He fought a duel against Robert Baratheon. Robert Baratheon killed him.
After the Mad King had been.
No.
I don't know.
Actually,
No,
it
it was
all
actually
kind of
before.
goes
I
down at
think.
the same.
It's basically the
similar
same
time.
It all
contemporaneous.
goes down at the
Okay.
same
So
time.
that's
And
the
part
part-
of it is because Rhaegar had kidnapped Robert's betrothed, Lyanna.
That's what started the
That's
rebellion.
What, that's
Right.
what started the rebellion, was that like everything went to shit because Robert's girlfriend ran off with another guy.
Right, and the story
legend,
that Starks are told is that she was kidnapped, but
right, and
we
now
think-
it,
but we think not.
like,
We think
but there's
not, right.
enough doubt, and so that's what started it all. And so there was that big battle with all of the armies, and Robert kills Rhaegar, and then at that point, the old king is going to blow up the whole city, and that's when Jaime kills him.
okay.
And his father, so Tywin, he'd been supporting the Mad King. He switches. He already has his army all throughout King's Landing. He switches allegiance, sacks the city, and lets Robert's forces in.
On
Can I
condition.
just? This
right?
is very important.
Daenerys, yeah.
So in that scene that we saw in this episode where they're fighting the morning sword of the morning, they seem to indicate that Rhaegar's already dead.
Because the
Yes.
Mad King's already dead.
So
Okay.
Robert has already killed Rhaegar on the Trident.
So
Not with a trident.
right, but
hammer.
now that makes it super strange that what is it? It's not
Lyanna.
Lyanna. That Lyanna's still alive. Because had the impression that Lyanna was killed in that mess, but she wasn't killed in that mess. She survived Rhaegar. She survived the Mad King. All that. So which means that her dying later is an even bigger mystery. And like, I guess the Targaryens didn't do it, which means maybe the good guys did it. We don't know. We
Or
don't
the-
know. Or she's killed at the last
or the
second. and
Lannisters.
Dragon's
Or
Way.
dies
Or
during
dies in
childbirth.
childbirth.
Yeah.
Right?
Or dies in childbirth.
Right.
Or the Lannisters did it because then that was Robert already with Cersei?
No.
So that because the reason Tywin would have allowed Robert to take the city presumably would have been like, I have an idea.
Well, and
right.
Tywin was trying to get Rhaegar to. Tywin's intention was that Cersei would marry Rhaegar.
Right.
Oh,
right.
I
and
see.
right.
So
that
he
was
just
his
makes, but
intention.
he says, okay,
Yeah,
you got
but then
killed in the
Rhaegar
battle, I
dies,
got it.
yeah.
All right, so it
So-
turns out I've just asked an incredibly relevant conversation. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, so this it turns out, I agree. I didn't realize this conversation was going to be this relevant, but we're about to solve all of Game of Thrones. So it turns out Lyanna both destroyed the kingdom by falling in love with Rhaegar and screwing everything up, right? But saved the kingdom at the same time because then Jon Snow comes back alive, fights the walkers, and yada yada, right? So it turns out Lyanna Stark, the most relevant character in Game of Thrones, even though she was never alive during the series, right?
Well,
we just saw her for.
We just heard her.
We just
Well,
heard
and we
her.
saw her briefly in that flashback 2 episodes
Right.
ago.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right. So I think this season we may finally, and this goes for the book readers too, we may finally get the truth of what happened between Rhaegar and Lyanna, because it's always has been positioned that Lyanna was kidnapped by Rhaegar and Rhaegar raped her. And George Martin has been planting some seeds, and the show has started to make us doubt and think that, okay, maybe Ned was somewhat of an unreliable narrator.
Right.
So wait, that did not get resolved yet in the book.
It has not been resolved in
Okay,
the
I
books.
got it.
and
So we
it
don't know,
has-
but it doesn't. It also makes, unless Rhaegar was stark raving mad, it doesn't make sense. Like, I mean, a guy.
Everybody respected him.
Yeah, everybody respected him. If you're just looking, you could have every beautiful woman you want. Like, you'd start a war to kidnap someone.
Yeah, but then remember, Robb Stark screwed up his whole kingdom by falling in love with a woman.
Yeah.
No,
So
but
that
no.
happens all
So I'm
the
saying
time.
that's why kidnapping doesn't make sense. And you do it for love.
Yeah.
You
Well,
wouldn't-
running
you
away
wouldn't kidnap.
together does make sense. He was a poet and a singer, after all. They're really sappy.
Right, but
He would just go to the tower.
Rhaegar's an interesting character because he was this poet, singer, bookish type, somewhat like Tyrion in that he wasn't short, but he
Right.
only ever read books and was in line to be.
Was also very good with a sword,
Right.
but he didn't want to be.
Didn't
he just
want to
naturally
be,
was.
But at some point, there's a story in one of the books. At some point, Rhaegar had read something, and he comes out looking like a sheet, white as a sheet, and suddenly embraces the idea of swordplay and learns to be this great warrior. So he clearly read some. There's some prophecy he read that it was like, oh shit, I got to get ready for stuff. And
Apparently, a little too late.
so, but it could be, it's look, like this is, tinfoil hat time. It could be that he read something that tells him to go and kidnap Lyanna.
Okay,
Maybe.
all right, that's
How
a
are
stretch. I
they
hear
not
you.
doing a show once this show is over? Of
Of the rebellion?
the right.
No, you're
Right.
getting
The
to my
prequel
relevant
show?
point.
Yeah.
First, before I get to my relevant point about this, and the only note I took, in even though we've discussed this for like 20 minutes already, two more irrelevance. I thought, like in my mind, Rhaegar is the best looking guy on the planet. Like they better
He's
get
supposed to be really good.
like really good looking guy to play Rhaegar. Okay, super
Yeah.
random point.
Well, the Targaryens are just supposed to be naturally gorgeous.
Right.
Great genes.
And second irrelevant point is how young does Ned Stark look there? That's when they conquered the kingdoms, when they were
16.
really,
Right.
really young, right?
yeah.
So that's amazing.
Somebody
that's so
commented
cool.
on the Facebook live feed that the show had cast Neil Patrick Harris as young Ned Stark.
A little bit.
I thought,
yeah,
He does look
I
like
know.
him, though.
I thought that they did such
Sir
a great.
Doogie Howser.
I mean, but he looks like Sean Bean. I mean,
Yeah, he
it
does.
was really. I thought.
Yeah,
it was
that
well
was
done.
great casting.
Even the facial expressions. Yeah.
So now the relevant point. How do they not do prequels?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Maybe they will.
No,
Maybe they will.
they have to. Because once this whole thing's over, we're going to be deflated as a nation. Like in the beginning of this episode, and I don't remember exactly how many episodes is left. I got a little panic, like, oh my God, we're running out of time.
I know.
Right? Like we're running out of episodes. I got like
30%
this
gone.
near the end of The Sopranos. Like, it's going to be over. I have to cherish every minute of this, right? But it would be like showbiz negligence not to do prequels.
No, they've said
There
that,
are
'cause they're-
bits. He's written some. Like he's got a series of Dunk and Egg, the two knights, 100 years before. But that's not the sort of prequels you're talking about. He has a couple of like history books of short stories where you get snippets of like the early Targaryens and stuff like that. It's not much.
They've said that they're in the stretch drive. Like they feel it, the writers. Those guys are like, yeah, this is the beginning of what we're leading up to, because I think it's this season, which is 10, and then next season they might split like Mad Men and do
Right.
12, but 6 and 6, something like that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
if you do that math, we've got less than 20 left.
That's right.
Right? And so every minute counts. Okay, speaking of
not
which, there's
acceptable.
1,000 other
Yeah,
things. to
1,000
cover.
other things.
Okay.
Most importantly, obviously, Sam and Gilly on the boat.
That was a good scene. I liked it.
All right.
Oh, that's the one thing I didn't take a note on.
Right?
Oh.
No, I'm kidding.
She was
I read
cute.
somewhere that they have continued to prove their ability to be the dullest characters on the show. It's okay. It's not, a dull moment is in a show where there's this much going on. Is actually like you can breathe. It's okay. We adore them.
Like I enjoyed that lack of conversation that Tyrion had.
Yeah, I like that.
No, that was great.
That was
Yeah.
hilarious, even though it was obviously not moving
Maybe
the
you
plot
can't
along.
play this
Patrol.
without drinking.
I go on patrol. We talk about patrol.
It's a report.
I get some
not a
patrol, put it in my
conversation.
car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Daenerys. Let's talk about the Dothraki and what's that called? The
Dosh
Khaleen.
Khaleen. Yeah.
Dosh
In
Khaleen.
Vast Dothrak.
Yeah. Like initially it seemed like she'd played her hand so well, and now I mean, look, she may have, Earth's greatest get out of jail free card.
Drogon.
Drogon the dragon.
Yeah, well, that's exactly my point, which is like she keeps saying, "I am the great Khaleesi, Daenerys Stormborn, Mother of
Meereen."
Dragons."
Right.
I keep wanting somebody to say, "Hey, Mother of Dragons, where the fuck are your dragons?"
Yeah, but here's Chekhov's gun in this whole situation, right? Or Chekhov's dragon. What you're going to end up, my prediction for the Daenerys storyline is that because the other former Khaleesi is saying, yeah, I used to think that my Khal was going to take over the world and I would be by his side, and you're just basically another one of us. You actually didn't come here, and so now all the Khals are going to get together and determine your fate. And my prediction is the Khals are going to say, like, killer or something awful, and that's when Drogon comes in and is going to wipe all those dudes out, and she'll be the last one left standing, and she'll now have the entire Dothraki,
All the hordes.
all the hordes at her command.
As
That's
soon as
gonna
they
be
said they're
her-
coming together, it's like,
Right.
oh no, she gets
Yeah.
them all. They go
She gets them
west.
all, and her little pet is going to wipe those dudes out.
And of course, we also have the two other ones are in play now too,
Right.
Because they've been there.
Theoretically,
So
yeah.
which then comes back to my theory, which maybe cannot be substantiated, but maybe it will be in the last book, because the last book hasn't been written yet, which is that, she went into the fire with 3 dragon eggs and 3 dead bodies, right? And she came out with 3 dragons. So my theory's always been that the 3 dragons have the spirit of Khal Drogo, their son, and the witch. Okay.
Oh.
Right? And so Drago, not a big stretch. Combine Drago with dragon, what do you get?
Right.
Drogon, right? So he comes as the great Khal and wipes out all the other Khals. And goes, oh, they keep saying, hey, you thought Khal Drogo was going to conquer
Right.
the world, right? Well, here he is.
And one of them's
So that-
a cute, adorable baby, and the other one's a witch, and
Right.
they might need to solve that.
But but that means the witch one could turn on him.
That's
Right.
exactly right.
So the other one's the other one may have to kill the witch or be
It's an
killed by the
interesting
witch.
theory. I hadn't heard that
That's
before.
interesting. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That seems like Game of Thrones-esque. Also, one thing that's interesting is it was a great conversation, the other Khaleesi saying, I thought the same thing, that he would take over the world. But she's, of course, thinking, I didn't really think he was going to take over the world.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Slight correction.
Yeah. Just so you know. What else do we have? Well, we've finished. Let's then go back a little bit because we get Bran.
Right.
And we also get Rickon, but we'll go Bran first.
Right. We
So-
get Bran, who's
So what's going on with Bran and Max von Sydow?
Bran is still learning to use his seer abilities, and Max von Sydow. There's that nice speech where Ming the Merciless says you're not going to end up in this tree forever, right? That you'll be back out in the world. So that gives us some signs that Bran's going to end up going south, probably south of the Wall, and will be a player in this.
Yeah, certainly.
Right, but he's gonna learn to have some interesting abilities, and it's still kind of there's various theories on who Max von Sydow is. He might be Bloodraven. We're gonna see it's maybe he's connected to the Starks in the past. Maybe he's a former Night's Watchman. There's a lot of different theories about who he is, but he's clearly teaching Bran, and it's very menacing when Bran asks him, What do I have to learn? What do you
right.
everything? And when a guy like Max von Sydow says everything, you're like,
Max von Sydow, really one of the great international actors
Yeah.
of the back half of the 20th century. And it's silly that whoever doesn't know him should know him. He's in just a series of, he's such a great actor.
No, he's the guy in the tree. I got it.
No, he seems good. I just don't really know.
But how about, it's nice to see him get Star Wars and Game of Thrones in
Right.
the same year. When people are like, oh, Max von Sydow.
right.
Oh, look at that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we get Rickon finally. Bran and Rickon, these guys, those kids grew up.
Yeah.
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 Definitely.
Rickon's 30
Okay, so
now.
just 2 quick things. One, on the tree situation, I'd almost never want to leave. Like, I get it. Like, I love conquering. I'd want to go conquer the world and stuff. But I'm like, dude, I got to hang out here for a long, long time. Because that's actually my vision of heaven, okay? When you get to replay everything, right? Where you slowly expand your consciousness. So, like, I have this insane thing in my head that I want to go back to every argument we had about who remembered it right. right? Which I don't remember any of those anymore, right?
Right.
But
You'd be a petty god.
but not God. Just I die, and so little me, my version of heaven is my consciousness slowly expands, and I ask God, right? And I don't really believe any of this, but it would be awesome, right? And I ask God, hey, who was right? Was I right or Jon right? On who remembered it?
Yeah.
And
your version of hell is that you were never right.
Well, no, if I find out, that's not even hell. Okay, I could be wrong on all of them and still heaven.
Yeah.
So and then to be able to expand your consciousness to things you never saw or experienced or were alive for, right? So God, I think that like they're like all antsy to leave the tree area. I'm like, dude, take a couple of centuries.
Yeah.
Right.
Right,
And if he leaves without his legs, what a raw deal. You have all the magic in the world. You have these little creatures that came out and threw fireballs at me. I'm looking at the past, and you can't make me walk? Help my brother out.
He said he would fly.
Yeah, well, that's different than walking. But maybe he does. Maybe he does. So we're going to find out. But what I wanted to say there is that look at the Starks, resurgent. You thought they got wiped out. Ned Stark, the mom, Robb Stark. I mean, just obliterated. Poor Sansa, poor Arya, right? Now Arya is a badass, on her way to being a badass assassin. Okay, Sansa somehow grew some balls and is, now with the best fighter in the world, so she's a little bit safer, right? Which is going to get to my point on Rickon in a second. Bran might save the world, or Jon Snow might save the world. Here comes the Starks.
Well, the one thing I dislike most in people is I told you so, and yet every time I'm with Cenk, I can't help myself. I just do it. I wonder where that comes from. No, but like, it's not that I told you so. I just thought that from narratively, like this story always seemed to be like the Starks and the Stark kids coming back together. Eventually, they're going to find each other. We are getting incredibly close, obviously, now. I mean, people are headed to Winterfell / the Wall.
Except that somebody's headed to the Wall, right? Sansa's headed to the Wall, and John's like, I'm out.
I got it.
Right?
You imagine, though,
they're running to each other.
They're going to run
Bran
into each other, then he's going to go to, then he'll go to Winterfell, and he'll find Rickon. I mean, they're all, I got it. It's not happening in the next episode, but they're in the right area, and they got the right ideas. And Arya, as much as she says, I am no one, she's still...
There's no way she's no one.
I do want to point one thing out. Yesterday being Mother's Day, how did we not end up with Lady Stoneheart as a Mother's Day gift? As like Mother's Day being celebrated?
They don't know.
Wait, what's
We shouldn't. Just
anyway, I'm just saying for the book readers out there.
Thing.
How do we not get Lady Stoneheart
who is
as
Lady
our
Stoneheart?
Mother's Day?
It's a character that was in the books, but not in the show.
I get it. Okay. All right.
But we did have that speech by the High Sparrow about the mother's love and how we see it through our mothers and all that.
Yeah, I forgot that was on Mother's Day. The
Yeah.
mother's love speech.
Yeah.
Or you think for a second that Tommen has like got a little backbone and
Well, he looks like a petulant child even when he has backbone. He's like,
I know, but then he's
that
like
with his little
the
crown.
guy's just talking nonsense. I mean, it's just gobbledygook. And he's sitting down. And as soon as he sat down, it was over, obviously.
He slowly constructed the scene so Tommen would be subservient to him,
That's
basically.
right. And Tommen's like, yeah, it makes sense. I guess leave my wife in prison.
One of the things that we got in the King's Landing scenes is we got confirmation that Robert Strong in the books is actually Sir Gregor, right? The books are never really, George R. R. Martin doesn't specifically tell us that and kind of lets you find that out. So the show...
And who is what?
So Gregor Clegane, who...
The
robot.
The mountain.
Right.
Is the robot, right?
Right.
He is now, but we don't...
They hadn't actually confirmed
They hadn't
that.
actually
Right.
confirmed.
But it seemed
like,
fairly obvious.
Yeah, that's obvious.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Minor reveal.
Right, got you. This is what's wonderful about Game of Thrones. Number one, in any other show, Jon Snow's going south, Sansa's going north. They're going to run into each other. In Game of Thrones, maybe not.
Right. No.
Maybe they miss each other.
I don't think they will.
And then her throat gets slit on the road.
Right. That's right. Yeah,
So
totally.
that's entirely possible.
Right now, if they run into each other, though, I don't know what that would represent. I don't know where. I think Jon needs to be the person to retake Winterfell, which implies that he'll end up with Rickon, unless Rickon runs off with Asha again, or Osha. But right now, for Jon to be with Sansa, like Jon's going through his own reincarnation thing.
Well,
I don't know what Sansa's...
They can't just run into each other. They have to run into each other in meaningful ways with armies and power and a plan. Like
But Jon doesn't have an army right now.
No, he doesn't.
Well,
That's
Jon has got plenty of an army. Sansa has nothing except Brienne.
I don't think those guys are letting Jon just walk out and like,
No,
oh,
no, the
well,
wildlings are his army. He's going to have the giant, and he's going to have the wildlings, which are super badass. And
he
so-
already had them, and
when
now he rose from the dead. He extra
right,
has them.
and once you put Brienne into that mix, you got a giant and Brienne. You're like, well, now we're having a conversation. So watch yourself, Ramsay Bolton. So, but then the other wonderful thing about Game of Thrones is that they've set all this stuff up that is entirely possible, but might not happen. Shoot, what was I going to say about that? All right, keep going. I'm not coming back
First
to
of
it.
all, in our
I'm sorry. I remember now. With the religious guy, right? All the God talk, like, oh, the God's this, the God's that. It drives me crazy, right? And it's supposed to drive you crazy. Like, how do you know what the gods want?
So you say.
Right.
Right, yeah.
And which is what has happened for time immemorial in human history. Some jerk comes down and says, oh, I talked to the gods, and the gods say this. Yeah, dude, spare me, right? Now,
The gods say you all have to drop your pants.
Right.
yeah,
Sorry.
that's usually how it goes. That's right. Drop your pants and your swords. I'm in charge now.
Right.
So now he's doing this to Tom, and Tom is a kid. I get it, right? But like, Cersei, I probably despise her almost more than anyone else. Maybe more than Tywin. No, not maybe. Definitely more than Tywin. Not more than Joffrey, but it was close, right?
Right.
But I am so rooting for her
of course.
to kill all of those religious zealots, right?
totally, yeah.
So like, only Game of Thrones can get me to root for Cersei Lannister,
You know,
right?
I said-
but Cersei, off with their heads already.
Last week I wasn't here, but we all kind of thought that there was going to be a Roose son. What's his name?
Ramsay.
Ramsay moment. Remember we were talking about like who would kill whom. We thought, and so that came to pass. But in that first conversation, Cenk, in week 1 when you weren't here, like Game of Thrones had me wishing that Cersei or Marjorie would cut the femoral artery of just the religious woman.
The septa.
There's just the septa. I'm like, I want to see her die slowly.
Over the course of 3 or 4
Right.
episodes.
I mean, this is the show that had you guys cheering when Joffrey gets killed.
Yeah.
The
Right.
mother-
Like some,
I'm
some-
like, oh no, don't
right?
die.
Some
I want him to
14-year-old
suffer.
gets.
I want his mother to hold
Yeah.
him a little bit longer before he dies.
Yeah.
But
To
wait,
feel it. Yeah,
with
it's horrible.
with you saying that you're rooting for
You guys are
Cersei
bad
now,
people.
the thing is, I thought when Cersei gave her speech to Jaime, she says, Myrcella was the one, she had only goodness in her heart. I'm the one with all these weaknesses. It was this reflective moment where she's supposed to learn and grow. Then they go into the small council. She is just as driven by emotion and hatred. She lets all of her allies walk away. She drives them off so that Jaime can be there. So she's once again isolated herself. She doesn't seem to have learned anything, really.
Yeah, that's all fine. I want her to kill them all.
Yeah,
But she needs help to do that.
they got totally outplayed by what kind of show has a character named Rhaegar and a character named Kevin?
Well, it's
Oh, which is
Kevan.
going to get to my
It's
next point.
Kevan.
Oh, yeah, it's Kevin. It's unacceptable. Okay, so yeah.
Uncle Kevin is here.
Right. And by the way, I missed maybe the greatest line so far, although there's so many competitors for that in Game of Thrones, when you guys reviewed episode 1 of this season when Jaime Lannister said, fuck everyone who isn't us.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And actually, Sam had a similar line on the boat. He's like, I don't care about anyone else. Okay, I care, but I don't really.
That wasn't quite as cool as
Right.
Jaime
Yeah,
Lannister's
that's
line.
cute.
Right. That's ranks right up there with Davos in the last episode saying, "Fuck the gods." I'm not a pious man, obviously.
Right.
So, which is Cersei and Jaime's attitude. Fuck everyone who isn't us, which has an upside and a downside,
Oh,
as you
it's gonna
point
go
out,
bad.
John.
Yeah, it's gonna go really-
I like how they no longer, like everyone knows that they're an item.
Right.
But they no longer even say anything. There's no longer even,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what? They're like, yeah.
Yeah.
uh-huh.
Okay. We're
Oh, and I think
moving on with that.
You had requested some Queen of Thorns, I think, just last week, possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we get her. She throws in that little line, but I know how that could be confusing
And
for
you're-
you. Yeah.
you're-
Yeah. The writers are very happy to have her back in the
You're
room.
not married to the king. You are not the queen because you're not married to the king. I know
Yeah,
I'm
Queen of
confusing, that
Thorns
might be
is
in your-
awesome. She's one of the characters I respect most, along with the former Tywin Lannister. It's because those are the ones who use their minds, right, and who move the chess pieces around to their
Kevin
best
is
advantage.
smart too. Like that was that was
Yeah.
he and his brother were both they're bright.
We
guys.
all think that everybody else in the small council is going to get killed, right?
Well,
Because
and-
I think
I
that
don't know.
I think that Jaime and I think that Cersei and Jaime are going to probably have Sir Gregor kill them all, which will descend King's Landing into even more chaos.
I have
I
no
don't think
idea.
so.
Yeah,
Like,
I think so. I think
I don't-
Cersei is not. I think Cersei is not wise enough to realize. See, that's something Tywin would never do. Tywin would make those people think that he's on their side and play his politics games.
Yeah.
But Cersei is so bad at that.
Like
She's
she just
so
got
bad at it.
humiliated when they walked
Right.
out. Like, is her response? How do I
Right.
fix this? How do I get us on?
Right.
You know?
Because Cersei's famous line from season 1 is, sometimes power is power.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, having said that, I don't see the Queen of Thorns getting outplayed. So we'll see how that plays out, but that would be very surprising if the Queen of Thorns got outplayed. Okay, so, which I was saying that the name Kevin was going to lead to my next point because we didn't finish Rickon. I want to go back to him for a second. So that's the one I did research on to find out who that guy was who brought them in, right? And why it was called Oathbreaker, etc. But first, let me note that, so Shaggy Dog is dead, right? That was his direwolf, Rickon's. Number one, a lot of people online are upset. It's fictional.
It's a fictional dog.
And a baby got eaten by rabid dogs last week, and people were not as upset.
I don't think those dogs are rabid.
There were some articles that were quite upset actually about that.
All right.
Because
So,
that's the thing to do, is to be upset about the Game of Thrones violence.
Right, but I know,
As
but
long as
like
it's not
I feel
against
like
men.
animal rights activists are like going, it's a direwolf. It's fictional. Like, just calm down. Okay. Anyway, so
Also, it's a dog that literally is there to give its life to save its owner. I mean, it's a dog. Those dogs know what they signed up for.
yeah,
Wolves, not dogs. Wolves.
Sorry, Wolf.
Come on.
and
They were in
so-
dire circumstances. They know that.
That's right.
direwolf. I got it. Okay. So Shaggy Dog, the most incongruous name
totally.
I have ever seen in any show.
I read-
like Game of Thrones, super badass, cool. Sword of the Morning,
just called
and then Shaggy Dog.
Right,
I
that's-
felt it's like it was like you know, the record scratching. Every time I heard it, I thought of Scooby Doo.
But it was named by a 4-year-old.
But I
that's
thought-
what a 4-year-old would name
But
their
I thought
dog.
It's funny because obviously I don't remember the name, and so I was reading a couple of recaps last night after I watched the episode, and they referred to the death of Shaggy Dog, and I thought that was just their cute name for it. like I
It's
thought,
unacceptable.
There's no way they did. Well, anyway, he's dead. We don't need to worry.
Wait,
about it.
look, I think
Thank
that
God. I'm
what's
kidding,
good about the
animal rights
names is that each of the characters name their dog, and it tells you something about the character. Like Arya naming hers Nymeria tells you about her adoration for this famous female figure who conquered a country and everything. Like Ghost, I mean, Jon thinks himself as being sort of separate from everyone else, like he's just walking through, but nobody sees him. Like they all say something.
Yeah. Shaggy Dog's an unacceptable name. Okay, so but
Is there
now
any
the real
left? Who
point.
else?
My dad's name is
What other
Shaggy
dogs
Dog.
are left?
So Ghost is left,
But we
Nymeria.
and Nymeria.
We
is
don't. We
left.
haven't seen, but
She's just off. She got
she's
rocks
wandering.
thrown at her
She's
snout.
waiting.
That's it. There's only 2 direwolves left.
Did they
Oh.
kill Rob's dog?
Yeah, Rob's dog.
Rob's dog
Remember,
is
it was
dead.
put on his body. the
Yeah,
head.
yeah,
Right.
that I remember.
Right,
And,
and
they-
Lady is
How about
dead.
Bran?
Right. That's Sansa's.
Isn't Bran's dog named Summer?
Oh yeah,
Bran's
Bran's
dog's around.
dog is. Where is Bran's wolf?
And by the way, if it's named Summer, that also means something. That Bran brings.
I'm sure we'll get
summer,
plenty of comments,
because winter
like-
is coming.
Wait, I'm
winter
getting a
is
bit
coming.
confused. I thought Summer was Rob's.
Okay, well, we'll see.
No,
Okay,
anyway,
all right.
yeah.
So now,
I'm gonna think about
I'm sure nobody watching knows.
yeah, they're typing right now furiously.
I'm thinking,
How
okay.
could you mix up Summer and Shaggy Dog?
But that said, seriously, we'd be happy if you told us. We don't know.
Okay, anyway, so now here's my research about the relevant part of the Rickon thing. So I'm like, okay, so who's this random dude? Of course,
Bran's dog is still around because he was warging into the wolf. Yeah,
Yes,
so it's
yeah,
still
up in
around.
the north.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's up in the north. That's right.
He's just not
Okay.
going on the vision quests.
So
He's in the tree.
so it's random to me because
He
I
sit
didn't.
outside the cave because he was peeing on the tree.
The guy who turns in Rickon and Osha is random to me because I didn't
Right,
read the books.
random
right?
to me too.
So I looked him up. So he's Smalljon Umber, okay, and so Great Jon Umber is the guy who gets his 2 fingers eaten off by Rob's direwolf, okay, at the Great Dinner, if you remember, right? And he's the rebel, like, I'm not going to walk behind the other lord, and he takes out his sword, and then, the direwolf eats his fingers, and then Rob says, removing your sword means that I'm going to have to cut your head off, unless, of course, you meant to cut my meat. And then he's like, oh, your meat is quite tough. Right. Oh, they all laughing. So the Umbers are the most loyal to the Starks, maybe with the exception of the Swamp People. Right. So and so in the books, Smalljon Umber died at the Red Wedding. So
Yeah.
we're totally away from the books, okay? Smalljon Umber lives here.
Died with some loyalty at the.
Yes,
Yeah,
fighting with Robb Stark to the bitter end. Okay, so and he mentioned that his dad is dead. I would have killed him myself, he said in that speech in the show, right? But he's already dead. And in the books, Great Jon Umber is not dead. Okay, so he somehow got away at the Red Wedding. Okay, Great Jon did in the books. So. And I told you I didn't read the books. I just read up on it last night. That's why I know this. Okay.
Read the wiki.
Yeah, something along those lines. Somebody wrote an article. The same person crying about the wolves. Anyway. Okay. So here I tell you all this because it's leading into my theory about Oathbreaker, right? So there's a new theory. So I think Smalljon is playing Ramsay Bolton. Okay. So so why does he have Rickon? Because if you remember, however many seasons ago, Bran says to Rickon and Osha, first of all, Osha, make sure he's got occupational safety and health. Okay. Sorry, political joke. But don't come to the north with me because it's too dangerous. Instead, go to the Umbers and they'll protect you because they're our most loyal family. Okay. Now, first of all, mistake. Never leave the strongest person in your party, right? It's Game of Thrones. If, like, for example, Brienne's with you, hold on to her like she's Alonzo Mourning, okay? You're Stan Van Gundy. Don't let go of her leg. Bran is the strongest person in the party because he's got supernatural powers.
Jeff Van Gundy.
Okay, sorry.
That's what I was going to
Stan
say,
Van
actually.
Gundy would be a little tougher to hold for Alonzo Mourning to keep on his leg. Okay, anyway, so I'm like, don't leave. I remember at the time thinking, don't leave Bran. Bran's super strong. I don't care where you are. You're going to be better off with him than me and Osha are going down to the Umbers, right? And here it appears the Umbers betray them and break their oath to the Starks, but I don't think so. I think
They killed the direwolf.
I think that's his proof of life, right? Ironically, proof of death, right? So that's him saying, I am 100% on your side. Like, I got to sacrifice a wolf here. I'm going to bring in these guys, gain his complete loyalty, and then slit his throat, okay? So now...
There's like a 50% chance Ramsay just slits Rickon's throat the second he sees him, though.
No, I understand all that, and I might be wrong, right? And it might just be an Oathbreaker, and Smalljon has just flipped over to Bolton's side. And remember, it's not in the books, so it could be anything, right?
Not just the Umbers are different, but Rickon's situation, which isn't entirely clear in the books, appears to be very different.
Yes, in the books, that's right. He did not go to the Umbers.
Yeah.
He went somewhere else in the books.
Yeah.
So they were totally off the reservation here, okay? And so I think that it's a play partly because he didn't bend a knee. He had a great line for not bending a knee. It's like, your father bent a knee to Robb Stark.
Right.
Yeah, how'd that work out, right? So none of that makes any difference. But for the Umbers, it does make a difference, if you ask me.
Because he wouldn't want to do that.
He wouldn't want to do that.
Maybe.
Because he believes in his oaths, and he's got an oath to the Starks, and he's going to betray Ramsay Bolton.
I have a hard time believing it, but if you're right, that is an impressive prediction.
It's impressive. I mean, killing the wolf seems
Whew,
like
that's rough,
Rickon would have
man.
gone along with
But
that.
here's the thing, like,
He's a kid. They probably didn't tell him.
I don't. That would
Maybe.
be interesting. I think it's a stretch because I don't think you don't see a lot of guys in the North being that conniving. Like they're relatively honorable. They're relatively stand-up guys.
Except for Roose, in terms of conniving.
Except but that's
With
the
a
reason.
very notable exception.
Right, but I mean that's what sets Bolton apart from everybody else. Is
That's
that
true.
he is so he is a turncoat, and the rest of those guys are not. And we got in I think that first episode. Or no, it was the second one where the new Lord Karstark and Ramsay have clearly been talking about, they've got the Karstarks, they've got the Umbers and the other
Manderleys.
and the Manderleys, that all of their groups together, all of those bannermen together outnumber everybody else. So I think the Umbers are already on the Bolton side. And I don't know that they're playing some long game. I don't know.
Now I'm excited to find out.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Karstarks is another tough one for me.
The Starks with cars.
Just the name, I got it, a different name.
Nah, that's I will allow
Like
it.
there's precedent in history for the name diverging slightly when the branch is off and all that.
It was a great John line.
Well, that's also how we get the Baratheons. It branches off of the Targaryens.
There's
Okay.
precedent in history.
Can I do two things here?
Yeah.
Number one, since we're already in the north, let's do Jon Snow.
Yeah, that's what we're going
Okay,
to, yeah.
so first of all, loved the Onion Knights line in the beginning. Now he sits him down, he pulls up the stool, and he's like, "Now this is completely fucking mad to me.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
I can only imagine what it's like to you."
Yeah.
Right?
But how about that Melisandre says to him, what did you see?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Well, I
She's in
love
her
that before
crisis.
she says anything, before she even says that, like there's that look on her face, and she's like, "I can't believe this shit worked."
Yeah.
But like,
She's
right,
shocked,
so she,
right?
But like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so we get the speech by Jonathan Pryce to Tommen about the gods, right? And then we have evidence that there is no
There's
God.
nothing, yeah.
There's nothing. There is nothing. That's all horse crap. There's magic, but there's no. Obviously, there's magic. There's dragons. There's magic, but there's no meaning. There's no nothing. There is no God. There's no nothing. There's nothing. You die. You're dead.
We also have a great line about the gods from the Wildling that I know he's not a god because no god would have a pecker that small.
Right, that was a great.
One of the best lines of
Also,
the show.
but I thought the line right after it great too. Maybe don't burn my body just yet.
Yeah.
Sure, that's you. Like
Oh,
like
because
John
it's
had not made a joke in 5 years, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, it should also be noted for the record that Smalljon Umber has the best use of the word cunt. And it's funny how if you say it with an American accent, that word is unacceptable. It really
Yeah, no,
bothers
we've talked
me.
about this before.
Right, but if
Yeah.
you say it in an English accent, it flips completely to the opposite side and sounds really cool.
Yeah.
Your father was a cunt.
No, you got too much English in
Too
it.
much English.
Too much
Offensive.
English. You gotta
Get
do it
out of
again.
here.
That's right. You have to leave. So let's talk about Jon. So first of all, his apparent final act. I mean, this is a show. You obviously think he's gonna just go talk to Ollie. Ollie, you were wrong, different, but come on back. It's okay. No,
Nope.
Ollie, without a word, dead, hung, eyes bulging, kid. Saw
Oh,
his
and that
parent-
kid looked angry.
saw his parents
Yeah.
killed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Jon killed him.
Yeah, that was the moment where I thought, I'm too much of a lib. I couldn't have done it.
Yeah, I couldn't have done it. Yeah.
You
And
gotta do it though. If you don't, he kills you later.
Well,
No, I
and here's
get
the
it.
thing: the very first episode of the entire season, Jon is telling Bran to watch his father executing that
Yep.
guy, and his father teaches all of them a lesson, saying, "Look, if you're gonna pass that sentence, pass that judgment, you have to carry it out."
No,
Right,
that
and that's-
scene has stayed with me forever. Not just in Game of Thrones, but in real life. I always think about that. Like if you meet out the sentence, you got to carry it out yourself, right? And so I know that that's why Jon is doing it, and I know that the kid already Omar'd him.
Yeah.
Like you think he won't Omar him again,
Right.
and you can't show even a slight bit of like not compassion, but weakness in Game of Thrones, and that would be weakness if you didn't execute the people who had already literally killed you,
Yeah.
right? And so I get all that, but that's why sometimes maybe I'm not right to be president. I don't know that I could push the button to kill a random person in the middle of Yemen, right? And so, especially looking at the kid in the eye, I couldn't have
And he did the same.
swung
With,
that
he did
sword.
the same with the second guy. It was like, please tell my wife I died bravely. He won't give him that.
Well,
I
and
wanted-
what
we
I
should.
What I think is
Yeah, but I
interesting
mean, it's
in that
interesting.
scene,
But it
though,
would have been, all right, Larry, you got
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
what I think is interesting.
All right, Laurie.
Laurie.
What's wild about that scene, though, is that going into it, as he's walking and hearing everybody there, and Alistair Thorne saying, "I do it all over again," and then Ollie doesn't say anything and just still like glares at him hatefully, and you see him, he kind of looks and he chops that rope and kills those guys, and you think, okay, this is Jon having learned the lesson from Ned. He's being a leader. This is, you can't show weakness. You have to do the thing that he was taught. But then 30 seconds later, you have to doubt that that's what's on his mind, because he gives his cloak to Ed and he's like, fuck it, I'm out.
Yeah.
Like, my watch is ended. I am done.
My
and
watch
so
is ended.
my watch is ended, right? And he says,
Because it
and
ends
so
in
you
death,
wonder,
as we talked about.
Right. And so you wonder, is his reasons for carrying out that execution, is it because he's kind of exemplifying being a leader, or is that his revenge, and that death has changed Jon because he clearly had already intended that he was going to not be a leader anymore, and this is his last. Like,
Yeah, we speculated as to whether
Yeah, I don't think
before
so.
he came back, we wondered whether when he comes back, will he be the same?
I don't think he will.
He seems mostly the same. So
Initially,
far,
I think we got very little. We got very little of what's happening inside him this episode.
Yeah,
Very
so
little.
I read that completely differently. I read it as, it's an act of leadership going back to Ned Stark, and he's doing this as his last act of leadership on the watch, right? And he's not going to let anybody else swing the sword. But it's not like he's a different man, like, oh, no big deal, I'll swing it. No, he is torn apart by it.
you
right?
see it in his face when he's looking at Ollie.
Yeah, he doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to do it, and it disgusts him so much that that's part of the reason he's leaving.
Yeah,
and
okay,
and
maybe.
I had not thought of what you guys just said, which is that, hey, I was thinking, wow, breaking the rules is not what Jon does, right? But he didn't break the rules because he
was dead.
He was dead, right?
died. I'm off the hook.
At the end of the day, the greatest Oathbreaker of all is death. but also, we should remember a similar scene happened a season or two ago when Jonna Slint was conniving against him. He executed him, chopped his head off. So this is sort of, he's done this before.
Yeah, but that's easier to do than to kill the kid.
than kill
And
him.
by the way, I'm such a lib. I would have had trouble killing Alistair Thorne, like, because I know why he did it. I get it, and I don't.
He'll do it
begrudge
again,
him.
though.
I know, and I don't begrudge him that. And I know the guy. I've known him long enough that it would be too painful to kill him.
Well, I thought, it's funny, but Alistair literally said, "I'd do it again." I mean,
Yeah.
literally
He got it
said.
correct.
So, but I go back. I get it. We got a lesson in Game of Thrones leadership there from Ned in season 1 when he cut that guy's head. I don't think he should have cut that guy's head off. I said
No,
it-
he shouldn't have.
Yeah, I didn't.
Well,
I
right,
mean, I
because
didn't-
that guy
Was
that
right.
guy
he was right, and he was like, he wasn't like, I'm not running because I hate my job. I was running because this was no choice. This was, I was escaping from certain death.
Final point I want to make about the Jonna Slint. I actually think the Jonna Slint is harder to do because the guys he killed in this episode literally killed him. Jonna Slint was just being disobedient. He refused to go to the fort. He hadn't killed anyone. He hadn't done anything, and he chopped his head off.
Yeah, but you can't have cowardice on the wall.
Yeah, that was cowardice too.
I know, but executing
Cowardice,
someone for
lying-
cowardice as
lying-
opposed to literally murdering you,
Yeah,
I think
get
is a
it.
little hard.
I
But
get
yeah.
it.
Yeah, but then that scout at the beginning was cowardly. He should have gone down fighting.
That's
Yeah,
maybe.
and so that's
he
a
would've
good
gone
point
down.
too. So look, I thought he was just breaking the rule or his oath to the watch because, hey man, the rules are off. I don't know if you guys know this. I was dead and I'm back, right? So we're past rules here, right? But you're right. His watch was supposed to go till he died, and he died. I get it.
Yeah. It also breaks up marriages.
And and now my watch is ended. Is such a cool line. Yeah, he dropped his cloak.
That's clearly how we should end, but we're not going to because we did get like, I think it's worth mentioning that we saw what the little birds were. Like after all
that's
this
true, yeah.
time to get.
Oh, I assume that's what it was.
Yeah, you assumed that. Well,
No,
you-
I didn't.
Little kids.
I didn't
Well,
know.
you get a little bit more in the books as well.
Yeah.
One other thing, I know that we don't have time to talk about Arya. I'm glad that they sort of wrapped up that montage all together. It was a great scene, and because somebody tweeted me and reminded me, we had a big argument for 5 or 6 minutes a couple seasons ago about why Arya didn't kill the Hound and what it represented, and all of you refused to accept that she didn't hate him anymore. You said I was 100% wrong.
I
And she
think
says in
really?
this episode, you said you're 100% wrong.
Oh, you'll get to
when
go
I
back.
die.
Yeah, he linked to it on Twitter.
in heaven, we're gonna find
No,
out.
I
who
watched
was
it
right or
again.
wrong.
I watched it again
Well,
today.
luckily
and
that's
she
on
admits,
video, so.
no, I didn't want him dead anymore.
Yeah. So 'cause
She also
didn't kill
wouldn't
him,
admit
right?
she wanted that other girl on her list.
Yeah, that was sort of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. So
Oh,
she-
the girl who keeps beating her? That's what they meant by that? Okay, I got it.
And by the way, so we hated the 2 scenes leading up to it with her learning and all that, but when she's doing it with the eyes grayed
Yeah,
out,
when she figured it out.
pretty amazing.
I hear you, but I already saw Star Wars. Luke
And Daredevil.
Skywalker fighting blind, right?
I guess.
And with Yoda. And I already saw Karate Kid. So
right.
it's not that interesting to me.
guess.
Right.
But finally, it got a tiny bit interesting here where she still has the 3 names in her head. And I don't want her to be a faceless, nameless assassin.
No,
I
me
want
neither.
her to be Arya the assassin.
Well, her needle is still out
Right,
there underneath some rocks.
yes.
Right, she
So
didn't
we
give
don't
that
really
up.
believe that she's nameless and
Yeah.
faceless.
Although then that means that
No,
her
because-
devotion to this was
No,
sort of
because it's
cynical,
about the Stark kids. This whole show's about the Stark
Right, but
kids.
she at least believes
And
that she's got no name enough that she survived drinking that water.
Yes.
That's a
Right.
great point.
Yeah,
Great point.
that's true.
So, and my last
think.
point, as we're way out of time, is about Varys.
That was a good scene.
Every word spoken by Varys is like a full meal to me.
Right.
Okay, that's how I got this big. I love Varys. He's my favorite character
He
by
and Tyrion
far.
have the best dialogue.
Yes, as much as I love Tyrion and Davos and Jon Snow, all those guys, Varys is the best of the best. And so that little great speech against torture, right?
Oh, right, yeah.
Right. Yeah, and by the way, he actually is not above torture. Remember, he tortured the living fuck out of the person in the box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember that had done all the things to him when he
Right.
was a kid, right?
But not to get answers.
But not to get answers because it doesn't
Right.
work.
Yeah.
It
That
was
was
a
for
great,
him.
It was a great moment
Yeah.
of hesitation there. Like, oh, we do torture, and it does provide answers, or whatever he said. And then there's like what seemed like 2 seconds, before he
Just
delivered.
not the right answer.
Where you weren't
the
sure
right-
what he would
right,
do.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. And by the way, Ben and I used to talk about this on the Young Turks all the time during the Bush administration. So, yeah, you know what we did with the Nazis? Some of the top Nazi leaders, we brought them to Alabama and we played ping pong with them and treated them to steak dinners. Not because we liked the Nazis, but because it works. You know what we got out of them? All their goddamn secrets. And we used it to defeat the Nazis.
Yeah.
Okay? So there is a right way and a wrong way. And again, Game of Thrones is right. Torture doesn't get you the right answers. Unfortunately, sometimes a bag of silver does.
Yeah.
Right. A bag of silver and giving them what they want, making a deal.
Yeah.
Making a deal.
She wants out.
Always make a deal, like Tyrion, and that what he learned right then was like, yeah, we could fight him, or
Yeah.
Right.
or there's another option.
Yeah, the Tywin as opposed to Cersei.
That's right. All right. As always, good stuff. This was my favorite episode, obviously, of the year so far. Agreed?
Yeah, I mean, of all the seasons, I didn't love last season as much as I like the others. But this season so far has been a 9.5 out of 10 at least. Every episode, action-packed, incredibly relevant characters dying left and right, plot twists, and
Moving
we're
the
moving,
plot
and we're
forward.
moving, and we're moving, right? And this episode was fantastic.
All right. Good stuff. Back next week, everybody. Thanks.
And now our review has ended.
And now our watch is ended.